Hi everybody, and welcome back to Sew Along with Jan and the second part of the February Kimberbell Mini Quilt. So in this video we're going to be doing the rest of the blocks, and I believe there's three more. Yes, so there's the heart block, the gentleman bird, and the lady bird. Okay, so there's going to be three more blocks, and these are part of what they call dimensional appliques. So what that means is they're going to add some dimension to it by adding some of the flex foam. Okay, so this little foam stuff, and it's got kind of a tricot coating on both sides, and then it's got a piece of foam in the center. So we're going to have a dimensional heart, and then the little birds are going to be dimensional. So that they kind of split them up into standard applique and dimensional applique. So to do the first block, we're going to go back to the little heart block here. And I need my small piece of flex foam, which is 3 by 3.5. So I've got this piece here. And I've got a piece of red fabric for the heart. Now, they did not tell you to put shape flex on the back of this because you have the flex foam on the back of it. So you don't really need to put your shape flex on the back of that piece. And then I have my little striped fabric here for the background, and that one again is directional. We're going to put it right side, the stripes up and down, and then it does have the shape flex on the back. So okay, so those are the pieces we need. We need a piece of batting, of course. This one we're going to go back to our 5x7 hoop, and I've got my no-show mesh already hooped in my 5x7 hoop here. So we need to go get our designs for this one. Let's go over here to the screen, and we're going to go to embroidery, and let's see, this one's going to be mini quilts. We need the quilting first, so we're going to grab the quilting, and on this one it says to do the Pebble 2, and it's going to be the horizontal design. So let's see, Pebble, oops, did I skip it? Pebble 2, here we go. And then we're going to do the horizontal, and it's the 4x4 design. And this is going to be another one of those that we're going to trim down like we did the other letters. So here's the horizontal design. And then we're going to set it. These come in centered, and that's what it says in the instructions, that they should be centered. Then I'm going to hit add. I'm going to go back in and get my heart design. Oops. If I can get the button to push, there we go. February, and there's our little heart, and they come in centered together, so that's where we need to have them. That looks great. And then we're going to hit embroidery. Okay, so we're going to start our quilting first. I am going to quilt this in the white thread again, so I've got my white embroidery thread in my needle, and I've got my regular bobbin thread in the bobbin. All right, so I've got that ready to go, and the first step is always our placement line for our batting. So let me get my fabrics over here so they won't get stuck. And I have that little scrap of batting left that I cut off, so we'll use that for this one since it's small. And this is on page 15 in the instructions. They often do kind of like put together the types of blocks there are like this. They kind of sort them that way, so that since these are all dimensional, they put these three together and the other three together. Okay, so we're going to put our batting down, and we're going to do the tack down line for the batting, and then we'll trim our batting. See, I think I need my red. I got my red down here. So this is a good way to use up batting scraps and scraps of fabric. I mean, this has all been out of my scrap box. I didn't buy any fabric for this. I even had a big enough piece to do the backing, and the backings on these are pretty small. You know, they're only like 14 inches, so I even had a piece big enough to do the backing. All right, I think I had a fat quarter. So I'm going to trim around the batting here, close to the stitches. This is going to be another one of those that's going to have, you know, the little trimming line for us. so that we can trim it at 3.5, because this one will also be one of those 3.5-inch ones like we did before. All right, so we're going to trim that around that. Oops, here. There we go. And then step number 3 of the quilting is always the fabric or the background placement line. So I'm going to get that ready. And this will be another one we want to make sure that we get it pretty straight, because it's, you know, got the stripes on it. So I really love these little striped fabrics. They have quite a few colors in this, in their basics line. Okay. And then step number 4 in the quilting is always the tack down line for the fabric. So we're going to try to make sure we get this pretty straight. Those stripes. Okay, and then we're going to tack it down. These are going to be really fun little projects. I've enjoyed the first 2 so much, and they go pretty quick. The first one actually was pretty involved. It had a lot of blocks in it. This one doesn't have quite as many blocks, so that's nice. All right, and then step number 5 of the quilting is always the actual quilting. So we're going to start the quilting, and it's going to do that pebble design, the little circles. Okay, so there's our quilting and all the nice little dimension there for the quilting. And then this is another one of those that after the quilting, we need to step number 2, or skip to step number 2, because we need to get that little trimming line in. So we're going to go over here, and we're going to hit the little positive negative needle, and we're going to go down to the next step to get to that little trimming line to give us that. And then we'll go on with the embroidery. So that's going to be our trimming line. I just left the white in for that. And I might go ahead and change to red for the foam. It doesn't matter. You could leave the white in. We're going to do the foam next. But I think maybe I'll switch to the red for the whole heart applique. For one thing, the foam is a little harder. Sometimes it sinks in a little, and it's a little hard to see it sometimes. So I'm going to switch to the red so I can see the trim a little bit better. Okay, so then the next step, and this is on page 15 of the instructions, and this is step number 3, stitch the heart base placement line, and that's for the flex foam. So let's go ahead and put the red in for that, just to make it a little easier to see for the trimming. Oop, here, I missed. I've often wondered how many times I've actually threaded one of these machines, and sometimes I do it so fast I don't even realize I have it threaded. I've done it so many times. Okay, so this is going to be for the flex foam, so it's going to give us a placement line. And then it's going to tack it down. So we're going to put the piece of flex foam over this line after I trim my little tail like this, and then we're going to stitch the tack down line. And you can tape it down if you want. I usually just hold it. But you can see we're going to have a little dimensional heart that's going to stick up in the middle. And then we're going to trim the fabric close to the stitch line. Okay, so we're going to do that. Trim the foam, I should say, close to the stitch line. All right. So you can see it kind of goes down in there a little bit and kind of buries down a little bit. So I do like to, I like the red, because I can see it a little bit better. Now this flex foam's a little tricky to trim, so you kind of have to pull up a little bit on it so you can get your scissors underneath there. These little embroidery scissors help a lot to get into those little spots. But if you kind of pull up on it, it kind of pulls up so you can get your scissors underneath the edge. So we're going to trim that. I better go this way. All right, so there's our heart. I think I need to trim just a little bit more in here. You do need to trim fairly close because you want to make sure that that you get it pretty close and don't have a bunch of it sticking out, because then sometimes it doesn't look as dimensional. So let's see. So now we're on trim the foam close to the stitches. Now the next step is step number 5. Stitch the heart placement line. Place the heart fabric right side up. So we're going to stitch the placement line. I'm going to leave the red in for the actual fabric. And then we're going to lay the fabric on top, and then we're going to tack it down. I'm going to still leave my red in. And I didn't have the little red polka dots. I thought for sure they used the little red polka dots, so I had some red with little flowers. I thought this was kind of cute. So we're going to lay this on top of our heart here. And I'm just going to hold it down. It'll be fine. Sometimes I tape these, but I think it'll be fine. And then we're going to tack it down. So this is step number 6 on the bottom of page 15. And then we're going to trim the fabric close to the stitch before we switch to page 16. All right, so we're going to stitch so we're going to trim this close first, and then we're going to stitch the satin stitch. So that I'm going to leave the red in for. So we're going to trim close to our stitches here. I like it when they use the foam. It always gives it just makes it so cute and gives it a little bit of dimension and poofs it up a little bit. That was a cute little piece of fabric. I think this might have been in a kit that I didn't happen to use all of it with the little flowers. That's really cute. All right. Get all those little pieces out of there. All right, and then the next step, which is step number 7 on the top of page 16, is going to be the satin stitch. So we're going to leave that red in, and we're going to do the satin stitch. And then, this one's going to do another one of the cute little triple stitches down the middle also. Okay, so we got our satin stitches on, and we got a little poofy heart. And now we're ready to put the little white decorative stitches around the outside edge. So I've got my white in, and we're going to put the little triple stitches around the outside edge. Okay, so we got our little decorative outline around there. And as usual, I have my little tail, so let's get that trimmed off. But oh my gosh, isn't that cute? I really like that. So there's our little heart with the little decorative edge. And then this is the line that we're going to trim on. So when we get ready to trim, we'll be using that little line right there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and reset for the next block, which is going to be the gentleman bird. And that one we're going to have to go back to the 8x8 hoop, because again, we're using a 6x6 quilting design, which will be 6.5 by 6.5. So I'm going to go grab my 8x8 hoop with my no-show mesh stabilizer, and we'll be ready to do the little gentleman bird with his little top hat. Okay, so we're ready for the gentleman bird block. So we're going to need our piece of black, where'd you go, embroidery leather out of the embellishment kit. So here's the little embroidery leather for his hat. And then we're also going to need this little piece of kind of the what was that name? Cherub rose, kind of the rosy color. There's a lighter color for his wing, kind of a blue-green. And then he's kind of a darker blue. Now this is going to go on top of the foam So we also need a piece, the bigger piece of foam that you had to cut. And this is going to be his body. So the whole thing is going to be dimensional. So you really don't need to put shape flex on the back of the fabric. That's fine. I did put shape flex on the back of the two smaller pieces because this piece was pretty strong color-wise and these were lighter. So I did put that on the back of these just so that they wouldn't show through quite so much. So I did put it on those two pieces. And then I also put shape flex on the back of my background piece, which is this white piece with polka dots. Okay. So this one is going to be in the 8x8 hoop. So I've got my 8x8 hoop ready here. Let's get all these little pieces out of the way here. Set them over here. And we are going to go get our 6x6 design for him, but there is a special kind of alignment on this one. So we're going to look at this. So we're going to go get our design, our quilting design first. So we're going to go to our stick. Mini quilts for February. Let's go get the quilting first. And this one is going to be 6x6 Valentine 1. So let's get Valentine 1 and 6x6. And then we're going to set that one. Now then we need to add the bird, but there is something different. It says vertically center the block embroidery file over the quilting design file with the bird's feet 1/2 inch from the right edge of the quilt file. So we're going to hit add and we're going to go find the gentleman bird. So this one's just a little different. Let's see, February, whoops, February, and here's my gentleman bird. Here he is. Oh, he's already turned. Isn't that nice? So he's already turned to the right. So his little feet are to the right. And it looks like to me that it's probably fine. So like the edge of the block is the inside line here. Okay. And his feet should be, they said, about 1/2 inch. It says the feet from the right edge of the quilting file. So actually it should be 1/2 inch from here. So we may need to move it. So what I do with this, if I can't tell on the screen, I go into my settings and I bring up my grid. So I'm going to go and bring up, these are the 1-inch grids and these are the 3/8. So 3/8 is between 1/4 and 1/2. So no, let's do the 1-inch. Let's see what happens. Okay, so then we can tell that this line is about halfway in between, and then the edge of the embroidery design is about, yeah, so he might need to move over just a little. I'm going to scoot them both over. So sometimes I do this with my grid so I can tell where things are. So let's see, let's select down here the quilting design first, and let's edit, and let's move it over so that it's on a line. So we know that's 1 inch. Okay. And it's on this line right here. And then now his feet are about halfway, it says, to the edge of the design right here. So I would say that's about 1/2 inch because it's about halfway between this line and this line. So let's select him and then maybe move him up just a smidge. Let's see, that looks pretty good. So I use my lines to help me. Let's see, I think that'll be okay because it's from the, and it's, I'm going to read it again. It says, with the bird's feet 1/2 inch from the right edge of the quilting file. So the right edge would be the outside. So I think that's about right because see, this is a 1-inch block and he's about halfway in between this line, which is where my line is on. So let's see. It's moved over to the left a little bit. And let me see if it'll let me now center the whole thing. Let's see if it moves it. I think that's okay. So I actually, then when I went into the embroidery screen, I actually then hit move and I centered it again. So it's still about 1/2 inch from this outside line. So I think we're okay there. I did move it just a little bit so that they were centered, and then his feet are a little closer to the bottom. I think that's what they're trying to do, is to bring his feet a little closer to the bottom. And I was going to look at the upper part here, and I think it looks about right. 1/2 inch from the right edge of the quilting file. So I think that's right. So I can do that again if you'd like me to show you how I did it. So let's go ahead and return, and then we'll just center everything back up again. Okay. So what I did is I brought up my grid in my settings. Okay. And then I moved my embroidery file, the quilting file. So I'm going to select that. You can use the little selection buttons down here to select that. And I'm going to move that. I'm going to hit move, and I'm going to move that onto a line so I can see. We're just going to move it over here to a line so we can see. Okay. Let's move it over this way. It might be easier this way. Okay. I'm going to move it right on a line. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And then you can tell this is 1 inch. So his feet need to be about halfway here. And that's where they are now. Whoops, here. Let's undo that. What did I do? I'm not sure what I did. I think I flipped it over or something. Let's go back. You can always hit undo and go back. Okay, there we go. So let's put that on a line. So all I did is I scooted my embroidery quilting over, and I put it on a line, and then it actually made his feet roughly the right size. So I had to move it over about 1/2 inch. And so he looks good this way. And then his little feet are here, and the outside is here, and that looks like it's about 1/2 inch. So let's maybe move him just 1 bump or so this way. I think that'll be good. So here's the 1 inch line is here, and then his feet are kind of halfway in between. So I think that looks good. And then what I did is I hit embroidery, but then now I can actually center the whole thing again so that it fits in your hoop. Okay, so I'm going to hit layout and move, and then the whole thing, and see, it didn't move him out of where I put him. So he's still about 1/2 inch away from the bottom. So I think that'll be okay. I did have to move it just a little bit, but I used the lines on the grid to help me with that. We'll probably have to do it again. Let me look at the bird. The next one, we may have to do the same thing with that one. This one's going to be horizontal, so we may not have to move it as much. I think it's because it flips over vertical like this one is. So, all right. So I think we'll be okay there. I think he's going to be, you know, our seam line is going to be like basically right here, and we want the little quilt. Let me see if I can find a little picture of the quilt. Let's see here. I'm trying to find a picture of the quilt that shows where their little feet are. I think that's what we're trying to accomplish here. Yeah, is to get their feet closer to the bottom of the block. So I think we'll be okay there. All right. So it's going to be a little, yeah, so your seam line's basically going to be here. And I think if you would have just left it where it was, it would have been absolutely fine, because where it was when it came in was fairly close. I mean, it was a little bit closer. We can go back and look at it again. It's nice to do this kind of stuff a couple of times so that people understand. So let me hit return again. And then it put him back where he was. And I'm still, so we know this is 1/4 inch here, and this is, well, you know, he was pretty close anyway. So I think he'll be all right either way you do it. I moved it over and looked at it, and he's a little bit, but because like this is 1/4 inch from this line to this line, and then it's more than 1/4 inch over. So he is a little bit off. So I think the best way is to move it just a little bit. I'm going to move this over to my line again. I'm moving the quilting design over again. And then, okay, and then this is the line, and this is the line here, and he's about halfway in between. And I'm going to select the little guy, and then we'll move him over just a smidge to the left. so that it's about halfway in between. That looks pretty good. There, I think that's pretty good. And it's nice to be able to do it a few times because sometimes you just don't quite get it the first time. So I'm going to hit embroidery. And now when I hit embroidery, see the whole design itself is off center. So I'm going to hit layout and I'm going to hit move and then hit the polka dot down here. And then it's going to move the whole thing over. And then you can still see here's a 1/4 inch and here's a 1/4 inch. You can kind of tell by the lines where it is. So I think we're going to be okay. So we're going to switch that. So we did end up moving him over just a little bit. All right, so hopefully that was not too confusing. We'll do it again with the next one. All right, so our first step, of course, in the quilting is going to be the batting placement line. And I've got my white thread in. We're going to quilt this in the white again. Got to find my batting. Okay, we're going to do our placement line, so that's the first step. And then we'll put our batting in, and then we'll put the fabric in. My batting piece here. And the little girl has a little different alignment, so we'll check that one out too to see if it's pretty good. Sometimes you need to bring the grid up on your screen. I don't leave it up all the time because I find it a little distracting, but it is good when you're trying to do special alignments like this, because then you know how big things are. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lay this in over my placement line. And we're going to do our tack down line. Here I got to find my scissors. Goes around it twice. This is a cute block. I like that they make them dimensional. Okay. So we'll trim around close to the stitches here, our batting. Maybe if I can get my scissors to go. Okay. Then we're going to do step number 3 is always the fabric placement line. So we're going to do that one. Get our fabric ready. I have the shape flex on the back of my fabric. This is actually going to go fairly quickly. The hardest part was getting it lined up. We had to do a kind of a special thing to line it up. So. Okay, and then we're going to lay our fabric down over the placement line, try to get it centered as best we can. That, and then we're going to tack it down. So step number 4 is always the tack down. All right, there's our tack down, and then of course step number 5 is going to be the quilting. So I'll get the quilting on here, and this is the cute one that has love and the little bird and stuff in it. So we'll get the quilting going here. Leave my white in, and then we're going to start working on the little bird. Got to find my fabric here so I can match my thread. Okay, so we got our quilting in, and the next step is going to be the placement line for the foam. So I went ahead and put in my blue that I'm going to use. It's called Pacific Blue, and it's that 1050. So I'm going to put that in so that I can see it a little bit better when I'm trimming the foam. So I'll go ahead and do that. That's the first step of the actual embroidery pattern. And we're going to use the little bit bigger piece of foam. Okay, so we're using the larger piece of foam for this one. And then we're going to lay this over our placement line. Hopefully I got it all the way over there. Yep. Okay. And then we're going to do the next step, which is going to be the tack down for the foam. And it looks like we will trim the foam close to the stitches. And I kind of hold this foam because it's kind of poofy, so probably will go around it twice. Yeah, looks like it's going to be pretty good. I think we're going to be okay. All right, so now we're going to trim close to the stitches here, our foam. Pull this out so I can get to it. Now again, you want to kind of pull this up a little bit. It's a little hard to trim, and you want, if you pull it up a little bit, it kind of stretches a little so that you get a good close trim. Okay. Around here. Get all the way around. Oops. There we go. Didn't get lifted up very well there. There's like a little tricot coating on this, so that sometimes it likes to separate a little bit. So if you pull up, if you're not pulling up, sometimes you'll get part of it, but not the whole thing. There we go. It looks better. All right. Okay. So now the next step is going to be the body placement line. So we're going to do a placement line for that blue fabric that we're going to put on here. Oops. Helps if I get it in right side up. There we go. So I'm going to leave that blue in there, and we're going to do the placement line. Get our fabric ready. And there's no shape flex on the back of this because of the foam. You don't really need it. And let's see. And then we're going to, so we're going to do the placement line, tack this down, and then trim this one. Okay, so we're going to trim this, or put this one in. Get this over here. I think we'll be okay. And I'm just going to hold it. You can tape it if you'd like. And sometimes I kind of watch it when I'm, because it wants to kind of pucker a little bit. So this is not a real big piece, so it should be fine. Sometimes they pucker a little bit when they're on that foam, because, the foam's pretty tall. There we go. I just kind of held it down while it went around. Looks good. Okay. He's going to be so cute. All right, so now we're going to trim this close to the stitches. Trim the fabric close to the stitches. I think it's going to do all of the applique first. So we're going to do this, and then I think maybe the wing next. This one's really cute. Okay. Get around his little tail here. There we go. Okay. Looks like I might need to trim up here at the top a little bit more. Sometimes I don't, with that foam in there, it's really hard. Sometimes you have to go back and trim a little bit. All right. All right, so there's our bird. And then the next step is going to be, I think this is on page 17. I think it's this is the wing placement. So the wing is going to be this lighter blue, kind of blue-green colored, this one. So I'm going to switch over to that color of thread because that's pretty light. And it is my light blue 1226. So that matches that piece pretty well. I like to use my placement and tack down lines the same color as the fabric because sometimes they will show through your stitching. And this is very strong and this is a lot lighter. So we're going to do the placement line first. Then we'll place that piece of fabric. And I do have shape flex on the back of this. It didn't say to do it, but I thought maybe it would be better because this was a very strong color here. Okay, and then we'll do the tack down line, and then we're going to trim close to the stitches. Let's get that in there. Whoops, there goes my scissors again. I'll put this on here. Okay. Helps if you put your hoop back in, Jan. There we go. Okay. So we'll do the placement line, or the tack down line. Get my little tail out of there. Whoops. I got a little pucker. It should be okay though when I do the satin stitch. I didn't catch it fast enough. It should be okay with the satin stitch though. It'll pull it down. All right, and then there's another little, we're going to trim this first, and then there's another little layer to his wing. It's that little kind of peachy color, that little cherub rose or whatever it is, colored fabric. So he has a couple of layers on his wing here. So we're going to, come on onto there. This is one of my hoops that's a little tight in this machine. So I use this 8x8 quite a lot, and it's just a little snug. I need to buy another 8x8 because I never have one at the store for my machine there, and I only have one. And I use this size hoop a lot. All right, we'll get this trimmed. There's his wing. He's going to be colorful. All right, and then we're going to switch over to that cherub rose color to do the placement line and the tack down line for that. So we get that. And this was number, let's see, cherub rose 1348. And these are all the brother colors. But what I do is, I go through and I pull out my fabric first, and then I choose my colors that match approximately what they're saying to use, and I choose the colors that match my fabric. And this is going to be the top of page 18 in the instructions. Just a second here. And then we're going to lay our little cherub piece down, little rosy piece down. Get my little tail out of there again. And we're going to tack this one down. Again, I have shape flex on the back of this, even though it doesn't tell me to put it on, because those colors were rather, this one wouldn't have really needed it, but that lighter kind of blue-green really did, because it was, I thought this darker color was going to really show through it. All right. And then it says to the tack down, remove the tape, trim the fabric. We didn't tape it, we just held it. Trim the fabric close to the stitch line. Okay, so we're going to trim this one. Boy, he's going to be a colorful bird, isn't he? I like that color in there, that kind of corally, rosy color. So there's that one. So then it says, stitch the legs. Okay, so the legs, his little legs are going on next, and they are going to be black. So I'm going to put my black in and stitch his legs. Haven't used black yet. We'll have to use black on his hat. I'm going to do his legs. Okay. He's got long, skinny legs, looks like. Okay, so now we can kind of see how we did over here for the size, for the placement. And I can put my little hem gauge on the bottom of his foot here, and to the outside edge is a 1/2 inch. We did pretty well getting that moved so that it's a 1/2 inch from this edge. So that's cool. So I got that. I'm happy about that placement. And then the next step, is going to be, we're going to do the flower. There's a little flower in the bird's beak. So we're going to get our green and do, this is the flower stem first. So we're going to do this little flower stem. And he's presenting a beautiful flower to his lady. So we're going to put the stem on next. And then that was step 10 on page 18. And then we're going to do the flower. So step number 11 on page 18 then is the flower, and it's going to be red. So I put my 800 red in, and we're going to stitch his flower he's presenting to his lady. Okay, so we got his little red flower, and then the next step is the beak. So it's done with that cherub rose color. So it's kind of orangey, but it matches his wing down here. So that is step number 12 on page 18. Okay, so we got his beak. You probably can't see it up here very well. You'll be able to see it maybe in the next stop. But the next step then is going to be the body satin stitches. And so I'm using my Pacific blue again to go around his body. So that is the next step. And then we'll go on to his wing. Here, the lighter colored wing. Okay, so there's our satin stitch all the way around. And now the next step, which is step number, I gotta find it, 14 on page 18, is the wing outline. And then also there's a little bit of his tail feathers up here. So that's the next step. And I'm using light blue number 1226, I think is what it is. It matches that light kind of blue-green color. Okay, so we got the satin stitches around his wing, and he's got some tail feathers now. So the next step is number 15 on page 18, and it's the inner wing satin fill, and that one is going to be done with that cherub rose again. So we'll put that color in. I pulled it out a little bit so you could see his beak too. I like that colorful beak. The birds both are going to be really colorful and pretty. All right, so we're going to do some more satin stitches, and then we're going to move on to some more decorative stitches for his wing. Okay, so he's got his wing satin stitches, and the next two steps, step 16 and 17 on page 18, are going to be in white. So it's going to do some little wing detail in here, and then it's going to do the outer part of his eye. So I'll go ahead and do both of those in the white, and then come back and we'll get him finished up. Okay, so we've got part of his eye done, and all the last steps, the last few, 18, 19, 20, are going to be, done in black. So I'm going to leave the black in for a few steps, but the first one's going to be his eye, and then we're going to start doing some work on his little hat. So we'll do his eye, and then I'll come back and we'll do the applique for the hat. Okay, so we're ready to do the placement line. We have to do his little top hat here yet. So that's the next step. That will be the next step, the placement line for the little top hat here. And then we will tack it down. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So give me a second here. We'll do the placement line. And I still got my black thread in because his little hat is black. And then this is going to be raw edge applique. So we will just, this is the embroidery leather that was in your little embellishment kit. So that will be raw edge applique. So we won't have any satin stitches on that one. All right, and then I'm going to lay this over his little hat, and we can be conservative. So I'm just going to kind of hold it there, and then we're going to tack it down. It'll do a little triple stitch probably over that. Yep, it's going to do a little triple stitch, and then we'll trim that. Close, well, probably about an 1/16 to an 1/8 inch away from the embroidery leather. All right, so then we're going to trim this. Now the next step is actually going to be like a trimming line to help us with the trimming. I don't know that we really need to sew it down, but we will sew it, and it does say to do that. So I'm going to trim this. Now again, remember when we do the embroidery leather, you kind of want to tip your scissors. These scissors need to kind of tip toward you. Sorry, I got a fuzzy assistant here. So you want to pull this a little bit towards you so that you can keep the edges rather straight. So I always tip my scissors kind of upward. And it's nice. Some of the embroidery leather is white on the back, and I was glad when they made the black because then you don't see the white. Some of them you kind of see the white. If you don't tip your scissors back, you keep it pretty straight. So, but I still do it with this because then it keeps my edges nice and crisp looking. Let me get just a little closer there. This is the time of afternoon that my cat decides she needs to come out and see me. So she's out here helping me. It's getting on towards supper time, so you know, she thinks she needs to be fed starting at about 3:30 in the afternoon. So there we go. There's his hat. I think I need to turn it around here and maybe look at this little spot right here. I got a little spot right there that needs a little trim. There we go. Okay. So there's his hat. That looks great. All right, so then the next step, the last step of the design is actually, they call it a stitch the trimming guides in a visible thread color. So I'm going to go ahead and just leave the black in. I have a feeling they'll just trim, it'll just sew right along the outside edges of this, but we'll see what it does. I'm just going to leave the black in to do that. So that's the last stitch. So I imagine it's probably just going to go right along the edges here. But we did well with the 1/2 inch from his feet, because it was almost exact, so that was good. When I took my little hem gauge, his little toes are about exactly a 1/2 inch from the line there, so that's awesome. All right, yeah, so it's just going to sew like right on those lines. It's just going to give you a little indication of where to trim, so that looks good. And there is our little gentleman. Isn't he sweet? I love the colors. Isn't he cute? He has a little hair sticking up in his eyeball, but we'll get that. I always have to do a little trimming, you know, afterwards. There we go. There's our little guy. So now we're going to do the little girl to go with him, and she's going to be in lighter colors. So I'll get reset to come back, and we'll do the final block of this little quilt. Okay, so we're ready to do the last block here, the ladybird. She's so sweet. And she has a little crown on her head made out of that glitter vinyl. So we got a piece of gold glitter vinyl here. We're going to take that clear plastic carrier sheet off. Okay, so there's our gold glitter vinyl. So she's a queen. She's got her little crown on. And then we need a piece of kind of a light blue-green fabric for her body. Now there is no shape flex on the back of this one because we're putting it on top of the foam. So there we also got a piece of that foam, okay, to make it dimensional. So her body's going to be dimensional as well. And then we've got a couple of little hearts. So here's a couple of little hearts that we're going to put up above her head. And then her wing accent is going to be this lighter blue-green. Okay, so then let's see. So this one's going to have that special alignment also because her beak has to be a certain distance from the edge. So we're going to look at that to see if we need to move that at all. So let's go ahead and get our design up first. And then of course I have my background fabric, and that has shape flex on it. And I did put shape flex on the other smaller pieces for her wing and stuff because some of the colors were a little strong, so I went ahead and put shape flex on the back of these. These were like, especially this one's very light colored, so I did put it on the back of all these little ones. Sometimes I do just because of the so the background doesn't show through. So all right, so we're going to go ahead and hit embroidery, and we're going to go get, oh, this one's going to be loops 3, so we're going to go get our quilting design first. I've got my 8x8 hoop in with my no-show mesh again, because this one is going to be, whoops, a second, I have to go back. This one is going to be 6x6 again. So let me go down to the mini quilts, quilting, and that is going to be loops 3. Loops 3. Oh, here it is, loops 3, embroidery, and then we're going to do the horizontal. Does it say horizontal? It's this one. Yeah, no, it's not 4x4, it's 6x6. It's this one, the one at the end. So 6x6, and it is horizontal. So we're going to use that one, and we're going to set it. And then we're going to go get our little bird. So we're going to hit add, and go get the little bird. Where did she go? Here we go. Embroidery files and February. Go get our lady bird. There she is. Okay. So we're going to set this one. Now we're going to look at the screen, and it says that with the bird's beak 3/4 an inch from the left edge of the quilting design. So here's the edge here. And I think what I'll do, let's do the same thing we did before. I'm going to edit, and I'm going to use my select buttons down here, and I'm going to select the quilting, and let's just move that over to a line so we can see it. I'm just going to move it over here to a line so we can tell where we're at. Okay, and remember these were 1/2 inch lines. So right now it's only about a 1/2 inch. So then I'm going to hit select again, and I'm going to move her over a little bit. So she's about 3/4 of an inch from the edge here. So that looks about right. I would say that's about 3/4 of an inch. And it might have been okay the way it was. It was very hard to tell though because of the way the lines were on here. So I would say, so this is the edge, and then her beak, this is the 1 inch line here, and then her beak looks like, to me, it's in about 1/4 of an inch from the second line in here. So I would say that that looks about right. And you can kind of tell what 1/4 inch is because of the outside line and this line on the quilting, because that should be 1/4 of an inch. So she could go over just maybe another bump or so. I think that might be okay. So I think that looks good. So we're talking about this outside line, and then the end of her beak should be about 3/4. So here's the 1 inch line is right here, and see her beak pops in about 1/4 of an inch. So I think we're going to be good with that. All right, so I'm going to hit OK because I've got her where I want her. I'm going to hit embroidery. So after you hit embroidery, when you hit layout, move, and you center, all of it the whole thing is already connected together. So I'm going to hit center, and then it centers, and you notice it did not move the little bird, and it didn't the last time either. So I think that looks pretty good. So hopefully I'm going to look at her little tail, and she looks pretty good. So I would guess she's pretty good there. All right, so I think I'm happy with that placement. All right, so we're going to hit layout again to get that out of the way. And the first step of our design for the quilting, of course, is going to be our placement line. So I've got my white thread back in again. I'll check and see if I've got enough bobbin thread. I think I do for this one. Yes, I just put a new bobbin in, so I thought I had enough. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do step number 1, which is our placement line for the batting. So let me find my batting down here. Get all my little pieces of fabric over here out of the way. Hopefully I didn't melt my spine on my book. I have a little iron on because we're going to need the iron, you know, for that glitter vinyl here in a minute. So, all right. Get this little tail off of my batting here. It'll be easier to place it. All right. So we've got to put our batting down over the placement line. And then we're going to tack it down. Step number 2, we'll tack our batting down. This one's been really fun. It had lots of little things in it. It was mostly just applique, but that dimensional applique is really kind of neat. Just gives it a little bit of extra coolness. All right. It's going to go around it twice. I'm trying to see if there's anything unusual that we have to do. I think we just go right on to the design then, once we get the quilting done. Nothing unusual on this one. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and trim my batting then close to the stitches. Okay, put that out of the way. I still have some batting out of that strip I can do on the next one, the March. So I haven't looked at the fabric for March yet, so I'll work on that one probably this week to see what there is, what I have for fabric. I think I have enough to do it. It's for a lot of greens though, so I may have to get something. I'm not sure for this one. So I'm going to do my placement line. Step number 3 is the placement line then for my fabric. And it looks like the first piece is going to be, for the foam. So we'll do the foam first on her as well. Our placement line in here. Make sure I got all the, every now and then I have something dark on the back of my fabric, so I had some red, so I better get that off. So we'll get underneath there. And we're going to place our background fabric down over our squares as centered as possible. And then we're going to tack it down with step number 4. There we go. And then step number 5, as usual, will be our quilting. And this is going to be the loops. She is very pretty. I found some colors that all kind of went together nice, so hopefully it'll look nice. All right, so then step number 5 will be our quilting. So this will be the loops. Okay, so we got our loops on for the quilting. That looks really nice. And I'm going to start the body now. So I went ahead and put my mint julep in because that's the color I'm going to use for my fabric here. But I think the first step is going to be the placement line actually for the body, with the flex foam. So we're going to do the flex foam first. And this is step number 1 in the actual design. So we're going to put her body down first. First we have to get the puppy stuff underneath. Okay, now we're going to put the flex foam down over the top of that. Make sure I got it all covered up here. Okay, and then step number 2 is going to tack that down, and then we're going to trim the flex foam. Probably go around, yep, go around it twice. And this is my mint julep thread. I think it's number, let's see if I can see the number here, 1293. Kind of a pretty minty green. All right, then we're going to trim this flex foam, that's hard to say, close to the stitches. So again, I'm going to kind of pull up on it because it's a little stretchy, and sometimes if you don't pull up on it, you don't get very close to the stitch line because there's like 3 layers to it. It's the foam, and then there's like 2 pieces of tricot. So you want to be pretty close. I've got a little tail here. Get that out of there too. Okay. Go around here. It's always a little tricky to trim. There we go. All the way around here. Oops, boy, I didn't do very well there, did I? See, I didn't lift it up enough. So it really helps to pull up on it. Got another tail here. There we go. But it kind of separates a little bit, and I've noticed that then I miss the underneath piece of the tricot. I get the foam, but I don't always get that tricot that's on the bottom. Okay, there we go. All the way around. Okay, so then the third step is going to be the placement line for the actual body fabric. So I'll put that in. We got that trim. Get these hairs off of here. And then I will do the placement line for the body fabric. And then we're going to trim that. Just left my same color in. And then we're going to trim this fabric. She has a couple of, I think she has a little, yeah, she has a little wing accent too. And then there's a couple of little hearts up here at the top. All right, so I'm going to take that for body fabric, okay, and then lay that over the foam. And then again, this one I'm going to kind of hold it. You could tape it if you wanted to. I'm just going to kind of hold it, but you want to kind of hold it so that it doesn't wrinkle on you, because you know there's some dimension there. So I just kind of hold it as I go around so I don't get any wrinkles in it. Just watch your fingers. There we go. All right. It's going to go around twice, and then we're going to trim that. That's going to be a pretty colored bird. And then, let's see, this is on page 19 of the instructions. About to turn to page 20 here. After we trim, I believe. Yes, so after we trim. All right, so we're going to trim this. Ugh. this hoop, I wish that would be a little looser. And it's funny because it's just random hoops that do this. I don't know why. I mean, like the hoop that came with my smaller machine, that's an 8x12, that one is so tight in that machine, and I don't know why. All right, so we're going to go around this one. She's going to be so very pretty. These are such soft, pretty colors. A lot of the colors in the Love Notes quilt were the same. They were kind of turquoise and red and pink, and they had quite a few colors in it, but the little birds were blue like this. They were so pretty. Okay, so the next step then is going to be I have to turn the page, page 20. What is the page 20 here? And that is the wing placement line. So her wing is going to be this lighter kind of blue-green. So I'm actually going to go ahead and switch my color to my light blue, and it's 1226. So it's a little bit lighter colored. And I do usually switch my threads for my placement and tack down lines because I've gotten nailed a couple of times that things showed through. So I just switch them out. I figure it doesn't hurt to switch it out. This one probably would have been fine because it's not that much lighter, but a little bit. Okay, so there's our placement line. Okay, get the little tail out of here before we lay that down. And then I'm going to lay my fabric over my wing. So this is her wing. Okay, and then it's going to stitch that down next. So that is step number 6 on the top of page 20. And then we're going to trim her wing. And then I think it's going to go on to little hearts. It is going to do the hearts next. So I think she just has one layer on her wing. Yeah, so she just had one layer on her wing. All right. So we're going to trim this close to the stitches. And I did put the shape flex on this one because the other green was a little quite strong, and these are pretty light colored, so I thought it might show through. So I did put shape flex on it. Can't remember if it called for it. Let me look on the other page. Some of them did. It said the background of the heart, just the 2 hearts, but this was, it was kind of strong, and I thought it might make it look dark, so I went ahead and put it on the wing too. Anytime you think that your fabric might show through, it's better to just put the shape flex on the back. It helps with that bleed through. Okay. Get this one all the way around. And then now I think the first heart, let's see, heart number 1. Which one are we doing first? The first heart is the bluish one, and I think it's that darker blue. So I'm going to switch my color again. And it is that Pacific blue, and it is 1050. So it's one of those darker blue pieces that I had. I was surprised that I had that many kind of turquoisey blue colors. You had to have like 3 of them, so it took me a little while to find them, but I had enough. So this is the one we're doing next. So we're going to do the placement line first, and then the tack down line, and then we'll do this little cherub rose colored one. Okay, we're going to put this one down next. Do the tack down line, and then we'll trim it, and then it's going to do, then this one, and then it'll start doing some of the pieces of her legs and different things. So we're doing all the applique first. It's so cool to have the foam under there. They look so neat. I'm really anxious to see these done up. They will be so cute. So the next video we'll put the little quilt together and put the backing on and make our sleeve. It'll be so cute. I'm anxious to put this one up. It's still January even. I'm doing very well. I'm very proud of myself for getting these done for you before February so that you have some time to make it up. All right, so there's one of our hearts, and then the next one's going to be that cherub rose color. So I'm going to go ahead and change my thread to the cherub rose color. That is, what is it, 1348. I like that color. It's kind of a corally color, but it's more towards the pink line. We're going to do our placement line, and then we'll lay our fabric, and I do have the shape flex on the back of this one as well. That one's a little bit bigger. Okay, and we'll lay this one down, and we'll do the tack down on this one. And then, let's see, yeah, so then it's going to go ahead and start doing like some of the stitching. So it's going to do her legs and her beak, and all right, so then we're going to trim this one. And it's going to do her legs next. Ugh, this one just does not want to come out. There we go. Trim this one close to the stitches. And I think we'll be ready for some of the details, and then we'll do some of the satin stitching. All right, so there's her other heart. And then I think the next step is her legs. Yes, so we'll do number 11. This is number 11 on page 20, and that is going to be black for her legs. And then her beak will be that same cherub rose. So we'll do her legs first. She has little legs. That's the next part. Get those going, and I'll be back in a minute, and we'll do her beak. Okay, so we're ready for her beak, and it's that cherub rose color. Sorry, I just knocked the camera. I didn't mean to do that. So we're going to do that, and then there's another little piece to her beak. There was some little detail. It looks like she has some lipstick on. So I'm going to do that part too, and that will be red. So that's the next two steps. Okay, so there's her beak and her little, she has lipstick on, you know, she's getting ready for her fella next door over there. So making her beautiful. Now I wanted to see how I did with my placement of her beak. Was supposed to be 3/4 of an inch from this outside line. And it looks like we're pretty close. That looks, it's just slightly under 3/4 of an inch, but that looks pretty good. So we must have done pretty well with that grid. The grid really helps for the placement when you need that. Okay, so now I'm going to do the outline of her body, and that's done in my mint julep. So we'll do that, and then the following step will be the satin stitches on her wing over here. All right, we got our satin stitches on there, and the next step is going to be her satin stitches around her wing, and then we're going to put the tail feathers on. And I used my light blue 1226 for that, and that's the one that matches this fabric. So that's the next step, and that is step number 15 on the top of page 20. All right, so step number 16, we got all of our satin stitches on, and step number 16 on page 20 is going to be the little wing detail in here, and that's going to be done in white. So I've got the white on, and then we're going to move on to some satin stitches on the hearts. All right, so we've got all of our detail on our wings. It looks like I have a few jump clips to clip in there, and here's her feathers over here. And then the next two steps, actually the next three will be the hearts. So I'm just going to go ahead and do these little fast ones before I come back on again. The first one is the bluish heart. So I had my Pacific blue there, so I'm going to do the satin stitches on that. And then the satin stitches on the little cherub rose, so I'll put my cherub rose thread in for that. And then the third part of the hearts will be the little white triple stitch through the satin stitch. So then I'll do those three steps, and then I'll come back and we'll finish her little crown. Okay, so I've got the satin stitches around the two little hearts here. There was only one of them that had the little white decorative stitch in there. And then the next step is going to be her crown. So the first step is actually number 20, and it's going to be some little detail. So the color that I chose to go with the glitter vinyl is brass. So it's number 328 brass. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in, and then we're going to do the little detail first. And then it's going, the next step would be the placement line for the glitter vinyl. All right, so I can push this back in, get this out of the way, and we'll do the little detail first. I think it's just doing like the little tops of the crown. All right, so there's the little points on her crown, and the next step I'm going to leave my brass in, and we're going to do the placement line for the crown, and that's going to be done in this glitter vinyl. Then we're going to place the little crown material down over the placement stitch like that. And then I'm just going to hold it in place, and then it's going to do the tack down. Now this is also going to be, I believe, raw edge applique. Yes, so it's raw edge, so it's not going to have any additional satin stitches over it. So we're just going to trim. We're probably going to trim about 1/8 of an inch away, or fairly close to the stitches when I do the glitter vinyl, because of course the next step we're going to do is to press it down. So just a second, I'm going to have to put my glasses on. This is very matchy also. All right. So let's get this trimmed pretty close to the stitches, and then we'll press it down with our pressing cloth. Oh my gosh, how cute is that? I thought the January one was cute, but this one, I love little birds though. I think it's cool how they put the little birds in with the Valentine's stuff. So they have the little birdies all the time with so much of their Valentine things. All right, let's see here. This goes up here like that. Okay. Make sure I got it correctly done. Yes. All right. So there is the crown. And then I'm going to tip the camera up here so you can see me press this down. I'm going to get my pressing cloth. I got my little iron going here. I'll set this up here. Whoops, get that out of the way so we don't melt it to my table, to my cutting mat. So just turn this up a little bit so you can see what I'm going to do. I've got my pressing cloth, and it's just an old tea towel. I have lots of old tea towels. I had a grandmother that loved to make tea towels, so I have a lot of them. And I'm just going to put that over the little crown, and we're just going to press down on it for about maybe 15-20 seconds. That should be all we need. Let it cool off a little bit, and there's our little crown. Oh my gosh, that's so cute. And then I think the next step, there's a couple more steps. I think you have to do the eye now. Yes, so I'm going to do the eye is next. And then the last step is actually going to be another one of those trimming lines. So we're going to do the eye with the little eyelashes. It's so cute with the little eyelashes. Put that down there for you. And that's going to be in black, so I'll take the brass off and put the black on. And then we'll do I think I'll just do those little placement lines, those little trimming lines in the black. So it should be right along the edge, so I think we'll be okay for them to be in the black. All right, so we're going to do her eye, and then I'll go do the little trimming lines at the end also before I come back on. And then we'll get ready to do the trimming. Okay, she's all done. She has her These are the little lines that I sewed out and they did go right on top of the other placement lines, so we should be fine. And she's got her crown and her little eye and her little eyelashes. And so now we're ready to take her out of the hoop. I'm going to take this out of the hoop and I'm going to smooth the camera over so that we can do the trimming on our final 3 blocks. So give me just a moment and I'll be back and we'll finish this up. All right, so we're ready to do the trimming. I've got my orange pop ruler out, and this is the 6.5 by 6.5 orange pop ruler again. So I'm going to line up my little fabric tack down lines and those 2 little black lines with my inside of my ruler. They looks like they are pretty good, and we will trim along the inside of the little girl bird here. Get a hold of it, and I'm going to turn a little bit. I like to start in a little ways, pull back into the corner, and push forward. Make sure I didn't move that. I have a little trouble hanging on to them sometimes. I'm going to keep turning my rotating mat. Works quite well for this. Makes it much easier to keep the ruler from moving. All right. So there is our, whoops, I missed this little spot right here. Here's our little girl bird, all ready to be put into the mini quilt. Let's do the little boy bird, since we have this hoop or this pop ruler out, because the other one is that smaller one. So let me see here. So we're going to do the same thing. So those little black marks help us with the trimming, and our placement lines are there as well from the fabric. So that looks pretty good. All right, and do the same thing. I'm cutting on the inside edge of the 6.5 inch orange pop ruler. And if it's hard for you to trim with these, you know, if it feels weird and you have a little trouble with it, what I tell people to do is to draw a line with a marker, you know, like with a fabric marker, and then just cut. You can cut it with a standard ruler then. You know, you can just go into the inside and draw all the way around, and then cut it with a regular ruler if that works better for you. I've kind of gotten the hang of them, though. You know, it's taken me a little while to get used to them, because they do feel a little odd at first when you're cutting on the inside. And there he is. So these two, I think, go like this on the bottom. Aren't those cute? Really like those. And then this is another one that we have to trim on that little line that it put on for us. And this is going to be my 3.5 inch one. So I got my little 3.5 inch ruler again. And I'm just going to place it on my heart. This one's going to be a little tricky because the heart's popped up, but I think I can hold it okay. So we're just going to trim along the sides here. See if I can, I think I missed a little bit. There we go. I just lined it up inside those little lines that it put on for me. Oh, there we go. Oops, I missed a little spot on this side. Missed a little spot right there. And I did change my blade, I promise. But it's a little hard when you have, it's kind of poofy there. So get this side. Missed a little spot in the center here. There we go. There we go. So there's our heart for the word love. So let's look at all of these. So here's love, L, and I think it goes like this, L-O, and then V is like this, and then E like this together. And then this heart one goes over here. And then I think the 2 little hearts that are in the little girl block are part of this little set of hearts down here. So this goes up like this. So there's our little girl block, and the little boy block goes below love. That is going to be so cute. So thank you so much for joining me for the second video of the mini quilts, the Kimberbell Mini Quilts Volume 1, and this is February. And the last video for this one, quilt will be the assembly. So we'll assemble it, we'll stitch in the ditch, we'll assemble it, and then we'll put the sleeve on the back to hang it up. So I'll be seeing you soon. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up on YouTube, and please subscribe to my channel if you have not already subscribed. I appreciate it. So I'll see you soon, and we'll do our finishing on our mini quilt. Thanks, everybody.